Hello, 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 hello. Hold on one sec. Okay, here we go. We are live. I don't know, technology is so funny, but anyways, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. I am the queen of feeling fabulous, queen of feeling fabulous. And you guys know how I bring the show to you all. And I love, absolutely love when I can bring a guest on that enlightens us about something that we're so doggone curious about. And we've been trying to figure this out for eons, as well as when you figure out that when I let you know the topic, you'll be thinking about it the other way as well. But it's just amazing because anytime I can bring wisdom to us on how we can ebb and flow in our life just a little bit better, I think it enhances all of us. And in generally, it enhances the world. So, that's my lead in for today's show. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this gentleman who is a sponsor of the podcast, The Blissful Living Show today. So let me tell you, as I like to say, I got to take care of business. And so while I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you all to find a place to sit down and relax. Get you something to write with, a pen, a piece of paper, your favorite little corner in the house, your favorite beverage, water with lemon tea, green tea, coffee, whatever you vibing right now when you're looking at this or listening to this show, because the guest is gonna drop some, I say, nuggets of gold on us. That is just like I said, gonna enlighten all of our minds. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna take care of business. I want to thank our sponsors of the podcast, the Blissful Living Show or the Blissful Living Podcast. I want to thank Blissful Living For You at blissfullivingforyou.com. They are a company that is focused on wellness, wisdom, and wealth and helping you all to unlock your bliss so you can actually not only have your dream life, but live your dream life in a holistic and effervescent flow. In addition, they have events going on, and one of the events coming up, I'll tell you a little bit more about. But if you're interested in more about what they're doing, you need to check out the site. Go to blissful living, the number 4, the letter U.com. The next sponsor I want to thank is All Day Cable Incorporated. All Day Cable is a premier, woman-owned telecommunications installation company located in the heart of Silicon Valley. Been in business for over 32 years. And their motto is quality, quality, quality. They make the right connections. So when you pick up that telephone, that cell phone, connect to your access points or wireless access points, need to have that monitor keyed up in the conference room, or just need your network distribution to be tight so that you can make the right connections when you need to, then you need to check out All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. Okay, so you ready? You gave you time. I'm telling you, I'm bringing the energy because this gentleman, look, I'm just going to tell y'all right now, be prepared because me and him going to have a ball on this show today. So let me tell you about my guest. Ooh, I love this. It started very simply when Simon T. Bailey's daughter, Madison, walked into his home office and asked for a few moments of his time. But Simon, engrossed in a project, seemed preoccupied, even though he said okay. So disappointed, she said she'd just see him later. It was then that Simon had an epiphany. He had missed an important moment to be there for her, to be a tuned in, loving father. That if he didn't change his ways, Madison would likely end up in relationships with men who did not have time for her, repeating the pattern. Y'all feeling me? Okay. It was a revelation that changed his life and may even have changed the world. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Simon. As he began the quest to become a better father, husband, lover, and supporter of women in his life, that resulted in his blockbuster new book, Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life. A guide for men. Oh my gosh! Drop the mic on that one right there. Okay. Oh, what? Calm down, girl. Calm down. Now, the book is also a snapshot of a leader at a Fortune 500 company who had everything: the car, the house, the children in private school, and the trophy wife, and lost it all. was having his dream, but not living his dream. But it was in listening to the woman in his life that he regained everything, and that was meaningful to him. Now, the true realization for Simon is that supporting women in deep, committed, focused, authentic ways inspires them and creates a whole, vibrant, and empowering climate that helps men to grow too. The book is a powerful manual for gender equality that benefits everyone at home, at the office, or anywhere. And so that is the opening to this show today. I am welcoming Simon T. Bailey to the Blissful Living Podcast. Hey, Simon, how you doing?
Hi there. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a little bit of a mess. Not really, but in a good way. In a good way. I am very energetic, and today, for some reason, I'm like the energy is going through through the roof. And so good thing I'm just working alone today, because I would probably drive my staff crazy, or anybody in my life crazy, because I'm just like super amplified. So it must be because I knew we were going to be talking about this topic. Um, Ignite the power of women in your life, a guide for men. So, Simon, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges. No. First of all, tell me. We know your daughter was an inspiration that eventually led to this project, but you have more women in your life besides your daughter in your wife. Um, Tell me, when you thought about writing this project, did you take into consideration, or did you think about the women as you were growing up and the experiences? Now that you're older, you can look back and see some things that you didn't understand when you were a kid, right? With relationships, I know I can. But did you take a look at that stuff and say, you know what? If I had the time and I could go back and give these words to the fellas back then, everything would have been completely different, not only for my family and the women in my family, but for women around the world. Did you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, as you've already alluded to, the journey started with Madison, but then it accelerated when her mother said to me, "You give everybody the best of you, you give us the rest of you, and I don't want the leftovers anymore." So I realized I had built a house but lost a home. And after being married for 25 years, went through a divorce. And my divorce attorney said, "You should go and see a therapist." And no guy likes to go and talk to a therapist named Anita, who's been practicing therapy for 40 years, has more degrees than a thermostat. But there I found myself sitting on the sofa with Anita once or twice a month, 1 to 2 hours at a time. And she said to me, "Whatever you don't deal with will eventually deal with you." And she said, "As I've been working with you, I've discovered that you've got some mama issues." She says there's a lot of research out about about fathers and daughters, but there's emerging research out about mothers and sons. And unless you deal with whatever happened with you and your mom, you're going to carry that into the next relationship. So there began my journey. And I recognized I had to reach out to my mom, and I did. And we had a conversation that my mom said she was waiting to have that conversation for over 35 years. And it was a very tender moment with me and my mom, because I realized we both had to come to a place of forgiveness, and we had to understand how to truly move on from this situation. Because my situation was so bad that I was showing up in relationships with other females, professionally, certainly, and friends that I knew, and I was not showing up whole, WHOLE. I was showing up with a hole, HOLE, in my soul. So I was looking for love and validation, affirmation, all the wrong faces, searching for confirmation in all the wrong places. And what I recognized, I needed to deal with myself.
Wow. Wow, that's very interesting, because I have some sons, and I have two stepsons, and then I have my son, and I deem my son to be my twin child. It's really interesting. So I'm a girl. I grew up already family boys, a lot of boy energy, but my son I deem as my twin child.
Mm.
but he was born a day after his dad's. He was born a day after his dad's birthday, so he's a gift. His dad, so he's a I'm gonna say a Virgo, two Virgos, and then but he thinks like me, he processes like me, he does things like me. He's my if I was a boy, I'd be like him, right? And then I
Wow.
have a daughter who's like me as well, but she's like me in a different kind. She's not. I wouldn't call her my twin, but I would call her an aspect of, or big aspect of me. But I think she's a better version of me because she got some of the, I want to say, more gentler qualities that her dad has, versus sometimes I'm just out front, right?
Mm. Mm.
So when you said that about the relationship, about you need to resolve whatever it is with your mom. I think about my son, and I think, ooh, this is deep, like therapy. I think about my son, and I think about his relationships, and I'm wondering if his relationships, if we need to have a conversation. Now, we've had conversations in the past, but and he would tell his sister, I'm just like mom. I'm
Mm.
like this because I'm just like mom, or whatever. Now he's evolved, and he's growing up quite a bit. He's getting ready to be 32 years old. But it's just interesting. That touched deep for me. And so it's like, I think next when I go out to California, next time I go out there, I'm have a sit down conversation with my boy and see. I mean, deep, because we
Mhm.
can do that. Very interesting. Oh, I love this. Okay, so when you had that conversation with your mom, did you did you talk to any other females in your life that you were close to? For instance, like an aunt or maybe your grandmother. And I know sometimes grandmothers can be, depending on the grandmas, they can be really tell me everything, or we don't talk about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you include any of those other women, with regards to helping you move, into really having a really good dream life?
Yes. So there are two women. My Aunt Rosa, which is my mother's youngest sister, she and I share a birthday together. We're both Virgos. So we were
Oh,
born on the same day. So that's our little connection. She's like a second mother to me. And then my first cousin from my mother's oldest sister is like a sister to me. So Rosa and Deborah were the two that I reached out to say, hey, here's where I'm at. I need to reach out to mom. I need to walk through this. And they listened with an objective ear, non judgmental, just kind of heard me out and really became a mirror to reflect back. Here's what I heard you say. Here's something to think about because they know how my mother is wired. And they really helped me think about the approach to that conversation. And what was happening prior to my mom and I were talking is we were talking on the phone. My father passed away a number of years ago, and my father on his deathbed said, "Whatever you do, take care of your mom." So I would call my mom every Sunday, and we would just do the, hi mom, how are you? How's it going? You need anything? And it's truly an arm's length conversation. And at the end of the call, I would say, I love you, I love you. But it was just, I love you. Anybody can say I love you. It wasn't deep, it wasn't felt. And I was writing a check every month to support my mom. And after going to therapy to realize, oh my goodness, I've been showing up like X, what I realized, I'm perfectly imperfect. I am flawed beyond belief. And until I looked in the mirror and said, there's a problem, I continued to suppress the emotion and what I was feeling deeply and putting on what Chris Rock talks about is you never meet a person, you meet their representative. So somebody
true.
met me, they would meet my representative, right? And then once I had the conversation with my mom, I took the mask off because my mom accepted me. And it's so interesting. We're having this conversation. My wife and I were just in Buffalo over the weekend celebrating my mom's 82nd birthday.
Oh, wow.
And I got a chance to tell my mom in front of all her friends and family that when the school system wanted to label me 40 years ago as with ADHD, back in the day, they called it being hyperactive. She
Mhm.
did not allow them to put a label on me. And I wanted to say, thank you, mom, for just letting me be the bad child that I was, growing out of it to be the man that I am today.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. That's beautiful. I love that. And first of all, happy birthday to your mommy,
Yes.
82. That's fabulous, and being able to say that, and I would be totally with her with regards to not medicating the children just because they're hyperactive, right? Because there's a gift in that hyperactivity, and if we took
Mhm.
time to explore those gifts, then we wouldn't have so many children going wayward. So
Mhm.
just my stance on it. I'm, just a nurse and caretaker lover of humanity coming out of me. But beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so with regards to men, I want to. Okay, so I'm going to give you a scenario. You got a high-profile woman. This your spouse. She is busy. She takes care of the children. She handles her career. She's in the public. Everybody knows, and she always seems to make time for you. Somehow, she always seems to make time for you, but you don't seem to reciprocate and make the time for her. How to and I know you're not a therapist, but this is sometimes what happens on either end of the spectrum. How does a gentleman open up conversation in a compassionate way to tell his woman, look, I know you making time for me, but I don't need you to do this. I need you to make this kind of time for me. You know what I mean? And not to get too sexually graphic or whatever, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
there's time and then there's quality time.
Mhm.
How does a gentleman open up dialogue with that? Because I know in my personal experience, dialogue wouldn't get open or wouldn't get heard, and then when it did get heard, it was lashed out back at me, and it
Mhm.
wasn't always necessarily the case. I mean, I would take the blame when it was my time, but so
Mhm.
how do we start that intimate conversation of the kind of time the gentleman and the lady needs from their significant other?
Well, first of all, thank you for the disclaimer that I'm certainly not a therapist. So everything that I'm going to share is just based on experience, conversation with women all over the world over 30 years. So this is truly opinionated. I think the first thing how a man can start the conversation is to first of all come in the spirit of service. And the spirit of service is, first of all, love is not what it says, it's what it does. How can I best serve you for where you are and for what you need? In asking the question, how can I best serve you? What you're doing is shifting from me to we. When I shift from me to we, I'm making this about us where we can go together as a couple, as a team, as we are now booed up. And so when I'm asking you, how can I serve you? The deeper question or the question behind the question is, I know you don't need a lot of things, but I do know that you love me and you care for me. And in asking the question, how can I serve you? I want to move from a place of loving to cherishing. Because when you cherish a person, you're willing to listen between the sentences and listen beyond the words. So that's the first thing. The second thing is really understanding how is she wired. Obviously, Dr. Gary Chapman's book has been out there for a long time, The Five Love Languages. And for those who have not heard of the five love languages, there are five love languages that show up in any relationship, according to Dr. Chapman. Words of affirmation, uh, quality time, gifts and surprises, physical touch, and acts of service. So it's understanding what is her love language and filling her cup, feeding her soul in the way that she wants to receive it. But then the question begs is, wait a minute, what about men? Well, here's the whole thing. You will get what you want when you help her get what she needs. And when you
Wait. That's a mic drop. Bam. Say that one more time. Woo! That was powerful.
you will get what you want when you help her receive and get what she needs. Because if you don't like what you are currently receiving in the relationship, then you have to look at what you're putting out. What are you putting out into the universe that causes you to vibe with her and you move to another frequency of intimacy? Intimacy is sometimes, which would be the third thing, is Not every man understands the music of a woman's soul. So sometimes a woman is looking for Bach and Beethoven, not necessarily Tupac. And what you have to begin to do is, how do I adjust to where she's at so that I dance to the step and to the rhythm of her soul? So when a man understands the rhythm of her soul, you are on beat, you are in tune, you are totally connected, and you're not off key. But sometimes you're off key because you hear her, but you're not listening to her.
Wow. Wow. See, I was taking notes like 9,000 because I think, wow. Okay, listeners, if y'all didn't, he just dropped I like to say nuggets ago. Simon T. Bailey, he just dropped a bag of nuggets of gold on us in that right there. I mean, in the context for women and men, because I think sometimes women don't even understand. Like you talked about the 5 love languages. Sometimes, and that right there is a pot of gold. Sometimes women don't even know what their love language is. I mean, I remember when I first heard that term, it was like, oh, okay, you know, never thought about never thought about it like that. Just like how people learn differently, some auditory, some visual, some need to do, you know what I mean. So that was just like, wow. And then just learning to cherish the person. I just, wow, 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 wow. I mean, that is just it's just leaving me speechless because you don't hear this type of dialogue and conversations in today's world. um, you know, you hear all the negative stuff that happens, but you never hear the positive stuff that could feed and circumvent the negative stuff from happening. And no one really gives you the information until you've gone through a ton of negative stuff. And sometimes you're still in denial that it's not even reflected upon you, it's the other person. So just this information here, right here, is just amazing. Okay, so I want to take it to the context of the gentleman, Fortune 500 guy or not, but is, high powered, high profile, you know, VP executive of some company, Twitter, somewhere, I don't know. And he's got and I would say the little trophy wife, big age difference. And he can't understand where the disconnect occurred. He was connected to her initially. And then once they got married, there's been a disconnect. Um, what would you have to share? What would you share with that gentleman with regards to the exploration of the true reasons for the disconnect?
Yeah. So, where I would suggest, recommend, think about it. I'm not an expert, just a person
You're a
who's.
guy. You're a guy. You know what I
I'm
mean?
a guy.
Yeah.
So what I've discovered, men want sex, but women crave connection. It's not to say that women don't want sex, but they want connection. So the first thing we have to look at is, go back to day one when you first met. How did you woo each other, right? Because we sometimes forget about the handwritten note or the card or the flowers or the text messages out of the blue or the phone calls. Those things that became an emotional deposit into the emotional bank account for each person. As the interest begins to accrue in the emotional account, there was a connection because we were tracking, and you could finish her sentence, she could finish your sentence. So go back to day one. But here's the second thing, just to think about. Sometimes, as a man, where I fail is, I wanted sex, but I forgot to make love. Uh,
Oh, wait. Another mic drop. God darn, sorry. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. That was really good. Continue. I'm sorry.
So one of the things that I struggled with is, always, as a man, I wanted sex. I wanted sex for my wife, but I had stopped filling her cup and feeding her soul. I had stopped making intentional deposits into her emotional bank account in the way she wanted to receive it, i.e., communication. Good morning. How are you? How's your day going? Anything going on? And she didn't need me to fix anything. She just needed to know that I was tracking with her and I was there. So when you make love through the entire day. And sometimes where relationships get stuck in neutral and they're looking at the rear view mirror as to what happened is because they forgot to do the little things every single day, because it doesn't take much to make a relationship work, but it's the little things, because a little becomes a lot over a long period of time. What are the little things? What's her favorite meal? What's her favorite color? What's her favorite music? And if you begin to understand to treat her like you treat some of your clients and customers, all of a sudden she begins to realize that she is a priority, not an option. So when you begin to prioritize how you are feeding her emotionally, spiritually, do you pray with her? Do you start the day off and say, babe, let's just pray about this before we do anything? That's what a man does in a relationship with a woman, because now she knows that she's covered and she's not having to do all of the work. So when you make love, it doesn't just happen in a moment, it's continuous throughout the day.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Beautifully stated. Had me, going in my head about, yeah, right. What, stuff I haven't even thought about. And myself personally, as what do I desire? The communication, the connection. Just what I'm saying. It occurs, but you don't think about it. It's like you breathe, but you don't think about it until you start thinking about you breathing, and then you know what I mean. So it's very enlightening, and I love that. I want to ask you now about how fathers play, what role fathers play in the way their sons treat the women of their relationships in their lives. Can you share a little bit about your experience, per se, and what you can enlighten the fellas with?
So there's an old saying that the old folks used to say, the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Yes.
You've heard it, right?
Yes.
So unpack that for a moment. How I learned to love a woman was based on how my dad loved my mom. So then the question becomes, what happened if there was not a father in the home? Whoever was a father-like figure, might not have been your biological father, they influenced you by how they talked about women, treated women, showed up for women. And that left an impression until you begin to find a revelation to say, here's what I think is best for me. Okay. So let me just throw all that out there. So what my father modeled for me is something that I took into a relationship was food on the table, clothes on the back, shelter over the head. And my father never said, I loved you. So I believed how I was conditioned that if I provide you things, that is my way of saying that I loved you. Now, granted, we got married. Yeah, I love you. I love you. I said, I love you. Yes. Right. Hello. Right. Let's just be true. Right. And I had never told our children that I love them. And she said to me, you've never told our children that you love them. I said, because my dad never told me. And she said, you may want to do something about that. So talked to my dad. And I said, Dad, you never said I loved you. And he said, I put food on the table, clothes on your back, shelter over your head. That was my way of saying that I loved you. But I said, Dad, I think I need to hear it. And my father told me that when his father was living, they were living in Jamaica. His father died at the age of 8. And he had to become the man of the house. And he said, Simon, I cannot do what's never been done. I cannot be who I've not become. And I cannot give what I have not received. And I said, so Dad, here's what I want you to know. I love you. Reverse parenting. And I said it to him. And then he said, I love you. And all I ever wanted to hear my father say is that he saw me, he celebrated me, and that he loved me, because everything I was doing outwardly was to get the validation from my dad. Once he said it, I went to Daniel and Madison and I said, I love you and I believe in you. But here was the chain reaction. I have three brothers. We talked on the phone, and most guys are, hey man, what's up, man? But at the end of our call, after Dad said, I love you, all of my brothers, we started saying, hey man, I love you. I love you too, dog. And so it was this ripple effect
Oh,
because of the father's imprint.
right. Wow. Wow. Just as you were talking, I thought about, people, my cousins and stuff. And for some of them, my dad was the father figure. He was the one that, you know, they were around the most, right? And then as we grew up, you know how people move, cousins move, stuff, that kind of stuff happened. But when I think about some of my cousins, I think about, ooh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like you can see the imprint, whether good, bad, or indifferent. You can see the imprint, and also the whole thing of not saying I love you. The interesting thing though was it wasn't my dad, and it wasn't my mom, who was my mom's mom. She was grew up in Houston, Texas, and moved to California when she got married to my grandfather, who was in the Navy in World War II.
Mm.
And my mom tells me stories that her mom never told them she loved them. They knew she loved them, but she never said it until when she was dying, and then she
Mm.
said it, and they asked why, and she said, well, because that's just like what your dad said. I took care of, I went to work, I put food
Mm.
on the table. When your dad died from cancer after coming back from World War II, I raised you girls alone. It was it was just and so it's like, wow, that's really interesting because as a healthcare professional nurse, we learn psychology stuff where things do the fruit really doesn't fall from far from the tree, right, so to
Mhm.
speak. um but in the just conceptual part of what we're talking about, in its whole, it's HOLE whole. um it peels back those layers that we sometimes suppress and don't even realize until it's brought up to, like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like your dad didn't even realize it. My
Yeah.
grandmother, she didn't either. It was just, they thought by doing was showing love. And the other thing, you said something else that I thought was really riveting with regards to um, recognizing like the little things, taking time, I, you know, uh, recognizing the little things, or hey, I know you got a lot on your plate, or let me help, just little stuff like that. I think sometimes guys don't understand how valuable. Now if we say no, okay, but at least that's hugely valuable, because to me it shows you care, you recognize I'm overloaded, and even if it's just rubbing my feet or whatever, you know what I mean. You recognize that, and that means you're, to me, I see it as a connection, you know um
Totally. There
you
are
know
three things. There are three things very quickly I want to give
yeah.
every
Oh, we
guy
got
that's
time.
listening that he can do right now. First of all, if you're not sharing location with your spouse or your significant other, share your location with them so they know where you are at all times because, hey, I'm in this relationship with you. There's no secrets. I have nothing to hide. That's number one. Number two, book a vacation or weekend away as a surprise. Tell her you're going to pick her up from work. If there are kids, get a sitter, you do the work, and say, guess what? I'm picking you up and we're going someplace, and put her on a plane. She doesn't have to pack a thing. Tell her we will buy whatever you need when we get to that destination because that's showing intent. That's showing that I am thinking about you. But here's the third thing. I want you to plan just a day where you sit down, just the two of you, and you just talk and plan and think about the future and say, how do I help you reach your dream and your vision? What are you trying to accomplish? And how do I come alongside and invest and pour into where you're trying to go? Because here's the reality. If you begin to meet her where she is, whatever you are dealing with, whatever problem you're trying to solve, you give her your problem and she's going to give you a dissertation to figure out how to serve it, because you are connected to a man with a womb man. And so a woman can give birth to ideas that you haven't even thought about because of how she is wired.
Wow. I love that too. Wow. Wow, Simon. I mean, dang. Wow. Your phone should be blowing up with all kind of appearances for because I mean, this is riveting information. I mean, I'm thinking about myself. Okay, so I'm the girl that grew up around a bunch of boys, so I do have some boy energy, and I do approach things, as people say, from a boy's standpoint, so to speak. I can't help it, but just what you shared and some of that, it was like, wow, that's me. Some of that stuff is me. It's like, taking time and making sure somebody feels, understood and connected, and but just valuing the small talk,
Absolutely.
valuing
Absolutely.
the small talk and making plans for the future, talking about it.
Yes.
I plan to live to be 110, so I got quite a ways to go. But you know
Nice.
what I mean? People, I never heard my parents talk about anything small talk, or mostly when I was growing up, when grown ups talk, you had to go out the room, you know. So I mean, just hugely wise information you're bestowing upon us, and I'd say it's like 5 pots of gold now, not just a few nuggets, but 5. Okay, I got more stuff. Okay, so um, we are in a whole new different world. Like when I got married many years ago, um, it was simple. We didn't have a cell phone. There was no internet. Um, you back in the day, if you wanted to meet somebody, you went to the club, to the mall, depending on what age you were, right? Maybe met somebody at the grocery store, or somebody from work introduced you to somebody, or you met somebody at a friend of yours' wedding or a relative's wedding. Okay, that's probably like the 5 spots. Nowadays, there's all kind of ways that you can meet people, particularly because they brought on the game of this online dating stuff. Share a little words of wisdom about the whole aspect of the online dating, and what gentlemen need to know about women with regards to that context, or what. Yeah, I'm gonna stop right there.
So the first thing I will say, Anita, my therapist, when I had just gotten divorced, she didn't want me to do online dating. She said, because you truly need to heal and finish your work. But my bed was cold and I don't want to be alone. And I did.
I heard that.
I'm just being honest.
Hey, keeping
So,
it real.
so, so no one told me that when you get on different dating apps like Tinder and Zoosk
Oh,
and Bumble mean different things.
yeah.
Nobody gave me the crash course, right? So I failed. And what I would say to gentlemen, number one, is if you get on a dating app, be upfront and clear about what your intentions are, so that that person respectfully knows where you are. So if you truly want to move towards a long-term relationship that leads to holy matrimony, say that, be upfront. And if somebody's not interested, they'll keep it moving. I think the second thing is really evaluate, what are you bringing to the table? Are you an asset or a liability? What I recognize is I was an emotional, spiritual, and financial liability. Let's just be real. I was. I had a significant alimony payment that I was paying, 2 young children, so I had to pay for child support and a number of other things. So now I'm going to show up in a relationship, try to date, and lead someplace. Wait a minute, have I gotten everything in order so I'm not coming in to truly be a liability? So be straight up about where you are. I think the third thing is, in the first 10 to 15 minutes, you know if there's a connection. And if there's not a connection, don't waste your time. One of the things Anita, my therapist, said, she said, Simon, you need 50 to 100 contact hours of just effortless communication even before you meet. And so, what I would say in this online dating world, and I know online is new school, old school is pick up the phone and say, let's just talk. And you remember back in high school when you had that girlfriend where you would talk, 2 to 3 hours. What you doing? What you doing? What you gonna do tomorrow? Whatever. The conversation went wherever it went, but you were communicating. So here's the last thing about online dating that I would say. I believe that there are three levels of online dating. There's communication, there's connection, and there's care. We don't get to care until we have solidified, is there truly a connection? Are we on the same page? Are we singing from the same sheet of music? Do our values align? Do we have opposite political views, but we know that? Do we like some of the same entertainment? Do we enjoy sports? We don't like sports. Do we read books? We don't like books. Do we go to conferences? Like, who are all of the influences? That's the connection. But the communication is, so we've met. All right, how are you? And when you meet somebody in communication, you play a game called commonality. And commonality in communication is, what do we have in common? But as we continue to talk, we move to connection. And then from connection, we move to care. And in care, we haven't hugged, we haven't kissed, we haven't done anything. It's in the care that she knows that you are a different cat, that you are a different joker, that you are showing up from a place of not what you can get, but what you can give. I heard Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole say almost 25 years ago, love desires to give at the expense of self. Lust desires to get at the expense of another. So when I truly care about you, it's not about what I can get from you, but it's about what I can give to you. Because when a man gives to a woman, he is given to himself. Woman, a woman with a womb. So I'm giving care to her. And as it is deposited into her emotional bank account, I get to withdraw from the account because of the deposit that I put in. But there are some women that are in a deficit because emotionally there's no care. There's just a connection because he hasn't done his work.
Oh, man. Wow. Very deep. I love it. I love this. I mean, you should see, I got 4 pages of notes, Simon, because I think it's just very riveting information. And I want to say, really, I've interviewed over my 11 years a whole lot of people. And this is, you're the first person that I don't want to say interview, had conversations with, because we're having a conversation. You're the first person I've ever had a conversation with that has really, with regards to this topic, kept it real. I've never had anyone want to come on and share with the fellas how to be a better fella, basically, you know, in the or come on and talk about life in the context that you're talking about it. I like the real examples that you're giving. I like that you're not holding back and trying to sugarcoat and fluff it up. You're keeping it real. And I think in this day and age, in order for us to progress forward with our relationships, we got to keep stuff real. You know, it's so easy to be fake. You see what I'm saying? You can portray your life any way you want to on social media and have people believe in it and it not even be reality for you. So the fact that you're here keeping this whole thing about having better relationships with men and men having better relationships with women and other people in their lives is just, it's just beautiful. So now I want to ask you the last thing, and hopefully you can go over a little bit because I got to ask this and I got to answer this. But with regards to women in business, because this is a guide for men in all contexts of life, is what I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
The information you're sharing can be utilized in all contexts of life. I know we talked about more relationships, but relationships out of personal loving, you know, your boo relationship, so to speak. How can those relationships, when you're dealing with women in business, be better? Have a better connection and just a better existence with the information and experiences that you've had.
Yeah. So let me anchor it with a little research and then I'll give you some quick tips. First of all, research says that 85% of consumer spending is controlled by women. 92% of the vacation plans are made by women. 62% of the automobile purchases are made by women. And oh, by the way, in case you didn't know it, the NFL has woken up to realize that their constituents that really support them are women. So, in business, the first thing that men should think about is visibility creates credibility. How do you ensure that a woman not only has a seat at the table, because we've heard that before, but how do we help her lead or co lead who's around the table? Because women have a bigger brain than men. Men don't turn off the camera yet. Women are designed in such a way that they problem solve differently. So, men, we are very linear in our approach, but women, because of their bigger brain, they have a 360-degree view of a problem and come at it from a different angle. So, in business, you must ensure that women have a hand up, not a hand out. The second thing to think about is in business, how do you ensure that not only are you her ally, but you are coaching her with no strings attached? You are mentoring her without looking for something, in the good by and by. Because when you're truly mentoring and coaching her, she will go farther than you have ever gone and will turn around and say, that joker helped me become who I am to be because you never asked for anything. And that's so critically important. So in business, it's treating every woman as if she is your blood sister. How would you treat your sister? How would you want your sister treated? How would you protect your sister? Think of the same thing as it relates to business. And then finally, here's the other reason why I made a statement to 200 CEOs in San Diego a few years ago. And I said, any country, company, or community that is going to be worth its salt must do right by women. Why? Because women, despite all of the research, everybody is data, 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 and data is so important. But in addition to data, women have an intuition. They have a sixth sense. Women just know some things, and we don't know why they know. It's just how they're wired. So the moment you invite a woman to look at innovation through a new lens, her intuitive sense beyond the data will say, what if? And it's in the what if that becomes the breakthrough for the country, company, and community.
Woo, woo, woo. Man.
That's why we need women in business right now. That's why we need women leaders. That's why we need board leaders that are women. The research says if women are on in the C-suite and on boards, that company is 25% more profitable. Hello, according to McKinsey, more profitable. It's not taking anything away from men. Right now, what is needed in the world is female energy that just comes at a different approach. We need the yin and the yang. It doesn't mean I'm less masculine and I lose my man card. If anything, I am more intelligent when I recognize that we need women now more than ever before.
Woo! And that we're gonna close out the show. Wow. Yeah, I mean, dang. I want to wow. Thank you, Simon. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It has been a blessing to have this conversation with you. And I mean, I've gotten so much enlightenment and just, when you were talking about this last segment, so often the things you said would resonated with me because I was that lone female sitting on a board for many years. I was a lone African woman of color sitting on a board for many years. And it would be interesting because I am really intuitive, but it would be interesting that when something was going on and they needed a burst of creativity or female energy, so to speak, they would say, well, what do you think? Well, what is your innovation, or what is, we know you're intuitive. How do you, and it was funny because that's really the time that I had my 15 minutes of fame. And then they start to realize, well, yeah, she looks okay. She's representing, but she also communicates to us how we need to be communicated with, and they learn how to communicate with me. But it was very interesting. It was a very interesting process, but just so much words of wisdom, and here I am getting ready to do on a tour to do these Brave, Bold, Unstoppable Women Summits, and you would be perfect, a perfect speaker. But I don't have any more spots. But your conversation leads into the braveness of not only men, but women as well, allowing their men to do some of these things that you share. Because sometimes, as you know, we women can circumvent the best of things in our life when it comes to having somebody truly care and do things for us that we ourselves are not comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And I would say we got some stuff to uncover and peel back as well, right? But thank you, Simon. Thank you so much. Again, y'all, Simon T. Bailey is the sponsor of this show. You got to go get his book. Simon, tell them how they can get more of you, your book, whatever else you're doing. Please.
Yes, they can go to ignitethepowerofwomen.com or simontbailey.com. Follow me on social media, Simon T. Bailey. ignitethepowerofwomen.com and simontbailey.com.
Okay. Are you speaking anywhere, doing any other fabulous things?
All over the country, virtually, in person, and lots going on. So stay with me on social media.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Simon, again for being a guest on the Blissful Living podcast. I want to thank all of you listeners. You see, I told you the show was just going to be absolutely fabulous. I say that, and you know, every time I say that, it's actually true, but it always up levels and the game always steps up because that's how queens do things. But I want to thank all of my listeners. Please share this show with everyone you love and care about, especially every man in your life. Subscribe to the show. The more that we can get information out like this, the better we can have our relationships be. And we can create more synergy and harmony, not only in our own spaces, but spaces around the world. As Simon said, the energy is magnetic and it starts with us and it can branch out radiantly to others around the world. So share this show with everyone you love and care about. Go to Simon's site. They'll be in the notes to pick up that book. And I say buy several copies. Christmas is coming up. I know it's like 5 months away, but they make good Christmas gifts to the fellas in your life or birthday gifts or whatever. Virgo month, Virgo season is coming up. I know. By the way, Simon, what day is your birthday?
August 26th.
Oh, see, Virgo season is coming up soon. And so go pick up the book. And I want to thank our sponsors. Again, Simon T. Bailey is a sponsor of this episode of the Blissful Living podcast. So thank you, Simon. I want to thank Blissful Living for You at blissfulliving4u.com. Go check them out. The Brave, Bold, Unstoppable Women Summits tickets are available and you can purchase them on the site. Come and hear the power of how you can turn your passion into purpose and profit from some phenomenal speakers that we are bringing women together in a spirit of harmony, and we're supporting our women veterans as well. So go there. And also I want to thank the sponsor, All Day Cable Inc. at All Day Cable Incorporated. If you're looking for good telecommunications installation company that does voice, data, fiber, wireless access, audio, video, whatever it is that helps you to communicate effectively and efficiently, then you want to check out All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. And as you know, I am the queen of feeling fabulous, Rochelle Marie Lawson, wishing you peace to your mind, tranquility to your spirit, and may you have health and well-being, not only for you, but for those that you love and care about. Until next time, everybody, goodbye for now. Have a beautiful day.